Or, much better. Not quite so chewy. Okay, got a bunch of chew deals on the trim. It's all lower. So I'll scrape all that down first as needed. And I just got a bunch of drywall mud.
This is a 20-minute mud. You just mix it up with
Another patch going, so it's perfect timing.
1 part powder, 2 parts water. Twice as much water as powder. And you just mix it till there's no powder left. It's real easy, but you mix up as much as you're going to use within 20 minutes.
This can almost go a little thicker, and then once it dries, just use a wet drag and knock it down. Got anything else left? Let's do another coat. Just makes quick work of this.
If you didn't have a drywall knife,
Doesn't look perfect yet.
an outlet cover or a strong piece of laminated cardboard works good also. And for something like this, you may want to use a sanding block or a sponge and a wet rag, or a wet rag wrapped around something like a block of wood, so that you get a more uniform knockdown.
Nice and easy to work with.
Otherwise, it might just take out the material that you put in when you go to knock it down once it's dried.
Wipe it down when it's done.
Yep, this one's chewy. It could have been furniture damage, something moving across it, scraped across it. It could have been pet damage, whatever it is. Either way, this is a nice, inexpensive, fairly fast way to fix it up.
Except for
you could replace the trim as an alternative, but this is just a fast, easy way, inexpensive to get it done. And sometimes it'll take a few coats, a few rounds at it, and that's the nice thing is you could just keep going over it until you get it exactly how you want it. You just definitely want to wait to paint it until you get it exactly how you want it.
Flat and even.
Once you paint it, it's a lot harder to do anything different with it.
Bring it around. Over. And you can always do a second coat, so. I'll use a rag to wipe it down eventually. So.
And again, something like this, maybe better off using a sanding sponge. In that you can get better control to keep it nice and flat when you modify it.
And it'll probably take a second coat. And sometimes that's better than trying to get it all on the first round. So, yep, it's one of those. Nice thing is, once it's done, you never even notice. It's like the Nelson Mandela quote I like. The task seems impossible until it is finished.
And here it is, wiping it down with the wet rag. Again, this works and it's very effective, but you got to be a little bit more careful with it, that you don't just remove the material that you just patched. You may want to wrap the rag around a block of wood, and that way you get a more flat scrape off or wipe off, and that way it doesn't wipe off into the material, and you just would push very lightly, not too much, and just let the moisture and the rag kind of do the work. And if it does take anything off, you can always go over it again. But again, something like this, you may be better off using a sanding block to sand it down so you get a uniform straight edge sanded off, because it's a little bit tricky to keep from pushing in too much and then taking out the material that you put there. There's definitely a lot of different materials that you could pick to use for something like this. The drywall compound is nice and easy, and it's very inexpensive. You could also use spackling. You could use wood putty. You could use Bondo. They each have their advantages. The drywall compound, it wipes out super easy, almost too easy. The advantage of Bondo is you would have to scrape it or slice it off or sand it off. Wood putty, you would have to kind of sand it off. So each material has its own advantages. You probably just wouldn't want to use caulking because you can't sand it. And you definitely wouldn't want to use silicone because you can't sand it or paint it. And you can sand it, or you can also use your drywall knife like you see me here, just scraping off the high spots. So it's a nice, fast, effective way. Alternative to wiping it or sanding it is, with a drywall compound, you can use the knife to knock it down or scrape it down a bit. Here I'm using some spackling. This is just, your regular DAP spackling. This stuff goes on pink and then it dries white. It's pretty easy to work with as well. This one's dried a little bit, so it's a little bit firmer, and in that way maybe a little bit harder to apply, but a little more resilient to the wiping off, where this one came out a little bit, as you can see. And again, in this area, probably for the wipe down or the sand down, would probably be better off with a sanding block for this area in order to get a nice uniform, flat, back to normal, like nothing happened door casing. But there's definitely more than one way to get the job done, and it's just kind of what works out good for you. Just giving you a few ideas so you have a better arsenal of options to work with. Is to make things like they never happened. There we go. Okay, got this cleaned up a bit. Just waiting on the cleaners, patched up. Gonna be a little bit more patching up, but it's almost there. A lot better. Okay, here we go. Take that little bit. And before you paint anything, you'll just want to get everything as good as you want. If there's something lower, you can paint it. You can still patch it afterwards. But if there's anything higher than that, you're going to be stuck with it. And if you did paint something and you didn't like it, you'd have to scrape it or cut it off. Sanding would be a lot harder. So all the different ways to work with it and get it done. It's not going to be perfect, but at least it's not looking all chewed. At least not chewed as much. So that's what we're going for. Not chewed as much. Here goes the paint. Hopefully that'll smooth out the roughness.
way better already. Livable. Not spectacular, but livable. Not looking brand new or anything, but it's looking reasonable. Some more paint and TLC. And you can always keep working with it and going over things. Flooring is getting replaced tomorrow, so I'm on the mission to do what I can before the flooring is replaced. Much better. Not so chewy. Alright. Much better.
No more damaged door casing trim. Such an amazing thing had taken place, for my daughter had been born. Such a precious gift from above. And now I will guide you and train in the way you must go. Through the door of everlasting, you can fly by faith in the realms of the heavens. Under the sun, under the sun, you can soar on the wings of wisdom. Rest in the shade as you wait for love, for the King
I'm